This episode of The Good Stuff has been brought to you by ESS Inc. This is a vineyard in Sonoma, California. The solar panels you see there power the irrigation. Next to it, underneath that tree, is a battery. But it's unlike most batteries you've ever encountered, because it could power your house just as easily as it could fertilize that tree. And it could help solve one of the biggest obstacles preventing the wider use of renewable energy.
That battery is sited underneath a 500-year-old California oak. Every time we tell the story, the oak gets more and more old. I think it was 100-year-old when we first started. But
and now it's 1,000?
Now it's 1,000, yeah.
Okay.
This is Craig Evans, President and CEO of Energy Storage Systems Incorporated, or ESS Inc.
But yeah, so when the arborist came in and did that analysis for siting the battery underneath the tree, because there was concern, he basically looked at the chemicals and basically said, this is just a fertilizer for the tree if there was any issues, and so.
Wow, that's amazing.
Called an iron flow battery, ESS's design promises long-duration, large-scale energy storage with little to no environmental impact. And it's all possible because of the unique chemistry of the battery. It's mostly water. But first, let's talk about why we even need a new kind of battery.
So what we do here is, essentially we're trying to change battery technology.
The batteries you're most familiar with are small. They're in your phone. They fit in the palm of your hand. But we need batteries for more than powering our personal electronics. Batteries could solve one of the biggest problems facing the power grid: large-scale, renewable energy storage.
The grid has problems, so you need the batteries to come in to compensate. Renewables tend to be intermittent. The sun tends to only shine during the day. During the morning time and the evening time, there's pretty steep ramps. When the sun comes up and the solar panels come online, they come online pretty hard.
And the grid wasn't really designed to handle that kind of energy surge. It's used to the constant, predictable energy output of fossil fuel plants, not the intermittency of renewables.
And so if you can include storage in that application, you can now store that electricity and then push it to the evening time or push it to the morning time.
And the most common type of battery you've probably heard of being proposed for this type of energy storage is lithium-ion. This is the same kind of battery found in your phone or laptop, but it's not the only battery technology we have at our disposal. You can use all kinds of chemistries to make a battery. You can even make a battery out of something as simple as iron and water.
Yeah, so our battery is a little bit different. Our battery is a flow battery.
A flow battery is an electrochemical cell where two chemical solutions are separated by a membrane. Ions are exchanged across this membrane, producing chemical energy and electricity. See that shipping container? That's not only used to transport the battery, it is the battery. That's right, you can go inside it. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, so now you're coming into our containers. So if you turn around, look over there, that's where we store the energy. Okay. So you think about this 40-foot shipping containers are really separated half and half. One half is basically all the chemicals I use to store energy is in there. And then the other half is what we call the power module half. So the battery module is there to make the electricity happen.
Called an energy warehouse, ESS's design is particularly well suited for long-duration storage up to 4 hours or more.
And so there hasn't been really a need for long-duration storage up until this point because there hasn't been a large prevalence of renewables being put on the grid. But now with the larger duration of renewables, you now need some way to shift bulk amounts of electricity around.
This means that excess renewable energy on the grid that would otherwise be wasted or underutilized can be captured and saved until it's needed. Typical lithium-ion batteries can only do this up to 1 or 2 hours. ESS makes iron flow batteries which can use iron and salt water, some of the most common substances on Earth.
And so it's extremely abundant and extremely safe. In fact, it's basically the same as fertilizer.
That's why it was good for the tree in the beginning. You can basically install these iron flow batteries anywhere without worrying about hurting the environment, which isn't necessarily the case with other types of batteries.
So if you have a lead acid battery, for example, it's got a very negative pH. Stick your hand in it, you're gonna get burnt. Lithium-ion based batteries run organic electrolytes that can be flammable.
So you've probably heard about this, it's been in the news. Samsung phones have caught fire, so have some battery-powered cars. Lithium-ion batteries can even explode under certain circumstances.
So they require fire suppression systems. In addition to that, the fire code will require safety perimeters, or they can't be sited in urban areas, or hazmat suits required for installation.
And iron flow doesn't have any of those problems?
We do not, correct. There's no fire risk. In fact, we operate around 50 degrees centigrade. We're well suited for desert environments, or hot environments, equatorial regions. And then since we're an aqueous battery, basically a water-based battery, the pH is very similar to soda or wine.
But you probably don't want to drink it.
You don't want to drink it, but you could drink it.
Okay,
you wouldn't, nothing bad would happen per se unless you drank an abundant amount of it.
Okay.
So if you don't drink all the electrolyte, an iron flow battery also lasts a long time. A typical lithium-ion battery will only last a couple years before it begins to lose the ability to charge. This is called capacity fade or degradation.
So everybody carries a lithium-ion battery in their pocket, their cell phone. And the day you buy your cell phone, it lasts for a full day on that single charge. But a year in, that cell phone now is going to be dead by 12 o'clock lunchtime. And that is typically due to cycle. Every time you charge the battery, you lose a little bit of capacity. And when you're integrating with renewables, those renewables are going to want to cycle the battery every day, maybe once or 2 times a day. And so you want a battery that really has no capacity fade.
And your battery has no capacity fade?
That's right. So the battery that we deliver to the customer on day 1 will have exactly the same capacity in year 20.
And when an iron flow battery finally gets to the end of its life, disposal is relatively simple since iron and water aren't toxic. That's not the case with a lot of other batteries. They can be composed of hazardous materials that pollute the environment. While most batteries can be recycled, the process is often complicated or expensive, or both.
In our case, our battery is 100% recyclable. So at the end of life, you can take that electrolyte that was in your battery for 20 years and you can put it in another battery.
When you're just dealing with iron and water, recycling is a snap.
The way we look at it is when you're utilizing precious metals or rare earth elements for battery technology, you got to look at the full life stream of those materials and how you're going to recycle them, as opposed to going in and trying to strip the earth for more of those elements. When we first started the company, we like to say that we could build our battery at Home Depot. Materials are pretty prevalent. We use PVC plumbing.
But sometimes when we're missing a part, so a certain part didn't come in, our engineer would just go to Home Depot, pick up the different parts, and make it happen.
Not a sponsor, Home Depot. Okay.
So not only is the battery composed of some of the most common elements on Earth, you can find the parts to build it at almost any hardware store. And it comes with its own shipping container. Being inside of that iron flow battery, I have to say, wasn't what I imagined being inside a battery would be like. It seemed more like something that would be part of a hydroponic garden or a giant aquarium than something electrical. For something that could be the future of renewable energy storage, it looked surprisingly low tech. But just one of these shipping containers can provide 50 kilowatts of electricity. That's enough to power an entire neighborhood block for 6 hours. Iron flow batteries have to be this big because they're not as energy dense as a lithium-ion battery. So these kind of batteries won't be going in your phone or even your car, but that's not what they're designed for.
Our market is very large scale storage and requires multiple cycles a day for a very long period of time. Those are our market.
As well as providing energy storage for the Sonoma vineyard we saw at the beginning, ESS's flow batteries are right now being used at a wind farm in Texas and on an experimental microgrid at the University of California in San Diego. Even the US military has shown interest in these batteries. The Army Corps of Engineers is currently testing ESS's design to see if it can effectively reduce the military's dependence on fossil fuel. And a few iron flow batteries have even made their way to Europe and South America.
What do you need to do to take over? What needs to happen? Get the word out?
Getting the word out is one. I think we formed the company in 2011. We've been heavily involved in making sure that our technology is solid and that we are at a capex cost that is either at lithium-ion or less than lithium-ion prices, and that we can back up our warranty and back up our guarantees that you'll have zero capacity fade and you have zero efficiency decrease over the 20 to 25 years. So the more and more renewables that come on the grid, the more and more requirement for batteries.
So it's going to be a battery jungle.
It's going to be a battery world.
Yeah. All right.
In the future, our energy use will continue to grow, and the type and variety of batteries we use will grow along with it. There is no single battery that can solve all of our energy problems. In all likelihood, it'll take batteries of all kinds, big and small, with chemistries that cover a good chunk of the periodic table. So if it's going to be a battery world, having a battery that's as good for our energy needs as it is for the planet is more important than ever. So ESS Inc. sponsored this video and they helped us make it, but we wouldn't have done this video in the first place if we didn't think what they were doing was super cool and super important and good enough to be called the good stuff. If you want to learn more about ESS's all iron flow battery, you can check them out at essinc.com and there's a link in the description as well. But what do you think? Is the iron flow battery a viable method of energy storage? Is this what the future of batteries is going to look like? Let us know in the comments.